Give him a second to sit down.
All right. The Planning Commission for the City of Charlotte will come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
McCray,
Present.
Arup. Snyder,
Here.
Garrett. Bliven. Here. Christensen,
Present.
Lester. Hartwick,
Present.
Frost.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right. I would now invite everyone present to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and now I believe we need to excuse our absent members, Commissioners Lester and Garrett. Is there a motion to do just that?
So, second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. The members are excused. All right, folks, go ahead and turn your attention to the minutes from our previous meeting, April 7th, 2026. I have copies of the minutes if anyone is interested in taking a look at those. Here it seems like there's some interest in some of the minutes down there. Does anyone have any comments or corrections for the minutes? I have just one, and it says the Pledge of Allegiance was led by Vice Chairperson McCray, but I am the chair of the Planning Commission, which it does say in other places. That's just a quick correction there. And I would accept a motion to approve the minutes with those changes.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes stand approved. All right, this is early public comment. If you are a member of the public who is interested in addressing the commission, please approach the podium, state your name, whether you're a resident of the city of Charlotte, and please limit your presentation to 5 minutes. The podium is now open. And the podium is now closed. All right, now to the approval of our agenda. Does anyone want a copy of the agenda? There you go. One down.
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Any comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, there we go. The agenda is approved. That then takes us to item 8 on said agenda, which is the public hearing proposed 2026 zoning ordinance and map. There's a number of pieces to this, probably the most important of which was the staff memo. If anybody would like a copy of that, once again, I have copies. I can distribute those. And then I know there is also some, I didn't print the maps just because I only have black and white printing and they're not super helpful with that, but I can bring them up on my computer, and if we want to reference them, I'm sure Tiger can probably bring them up to our screens as well. Tiger, do you want to go through, just kind of go through the memo and just highlight the things that we talked about last week and kind of what the result for that was?
There we go. So I think it covered the gist of the memo there to start with very well, but again, we spoke with John quite a bit, and he's here to answer any direct, specific, can't talk tonight, specific questions. But the ones related directly to the Planning Commission meeting last month, floodplain map was included, so the FEMA portion is part of the overlay district. And the only thing I will say is once we publish those online, we'll be able to have layers. So if you're looking for something specific, such as the airport zoning, you can bring up just that zoning. so it'd be a lot easier to read. Page 47, the section title update for parking requirements to kind of better reflect what was being mentioned there at the last meeting, instead of having, I can't remember what it was, but. Yep, minimum and maximum parking. So this would just better fits as parking requirements. Page 13, that was with the footnotes. No change to that because that footnote just sticks with the RN district. Page 54 is just a typographical error, and I know Commissioner Frost, you found another one for R1, R2, RT. So we'll get that corrected too. Page 79, that discussion about short-term rental. Probably should have remembered this for that meeting, but a short-term rental ordinance, if one is deemed wanted in the city, it would be the recommendation of the Planning Commission to send that on to the City Council to direct staff to come up with that, and then it would go back to City Council. Very similar to how a food truck ordinance worked. It won't be a Planning Commission thing, but because it kind of is in the use to start with, again, why do we do policies? For the safety of things. So I'm not sure who stated that there was maybe several Airbnbs in town, but again, safety is the key there.
And that's what I was just going to ask. Is that also going to reference the short-term rental? Will that be in reference to not just the food trucks, but Airbnbs as well?
The short-term rental would be for the Airbnbs.
Okay,
The city already has a food truck ordinance in place.
okay, specific
Yep.
just to that. Okay,
Yep,
that's
and it's a standalone ordinance, so then it's not part of the zoning.
Okay,
Then if
that's what
something-
confused me. I was like, why are we doing a second one? But I get it now.
Standalone.
Thank you.
So then without an ordinance addressing short-term rentals, what is the status quo?
We don't have anything.
Okay, so it's unknown. Like, you know, if somebody, I guess somebody challenged the legality of a short-term rental, it would just go to court, and the court would give us an interpretation on what the ordinance says, whether that's allowed or not allowed by, but it's unclear with current language whether that's the case.
And that makes that gray area, because if the ordinance doesn't specify yes or no, it doesn't mean yes or no either. So, that's later in your agenda, though, to give that recommendation, so we can have a further discussion if needed.
Absolutely.
Page 107, that was the density with condos. And again, John can clear that one up a little bit more if there's any more question, but it's based on the zone district that it's in. That sets the density for the condo, if that makes sense.
Can we go back to the food trucks? Are they allowed, and if they are, do you have to get a permit?
Sure, well, let's discuss that at the end.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we have commissioner comments at the end. Yep. Keep going.
So with that, that was all the recommended clarifications, more information needed that was presented at the council meeting. However, since the council meeting, staff actually also recommended 2 additional changes. One, page 13 is the table of districts, and we proposed the setback revised in the CC district, commercial corridor, to 25 feet. That really aligns with everything else that's in there. All the front yard setbacks would actually be 25 feet, except for industrial. And that kind of matches what we're already currently, you see on Lansing Road in those areas. So it would make less non-conforming for that matter.
What is that changing from?
I believe it was 30 on there, 30. And then page 21, or 121, the provision was added for the ZBA to include 1 council member. And we can get more discussion about that, but that kind of makes our appeals board and the zoning board the exact same people. They still have to operate completely as independent boards, but that council member cannot be the chair of the ZBA, nor can they vote if there's 2 times they have to vote, such as at city council and the ZBA. They can only vote once. That's all we had.
And who appoints that position?
It'd be appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the council.
Thank you.
Is that for just the council member, or that's the entire ZBA?
Entire ZBA,
Gotcha.
including the appeals board, administrative appeals board.
So what we are, so this is our public hearing. right? So this is an opportunity for the public, such as they are, to comment on this. And then ultimately, what we need to do is we need to recommend the passage of this city ordinance draft that we have. That's the kind of what's up for us at this point in time.
That's correct. So you would recommend back to city council with the changes for their second reading.
Gotcha. I guess at this point, yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, how did the first reading go? Anything to report to us, or?
Councilmember Christian, you got anything from the council? There was nothing that was brought up.
Okay, thanks.
So I think, once again, I think the best thing to do would just be to kind of throw this out to the commissioners here and to have them go through and see if there's anything either in the changes or that they've noticed in their review of the full zoning ordinance since the last time that we spoke, that they want to have questions about or want to suggest any potential changes to, and then we'll kind of see where we stand from there and make our recommendation from there. So, Commissioner Christensen, you got anything?
I do not at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Frost?
I do have two things. As Mr. Fulton pointed out, on page 18 of the zoning, it has to do with the mixed overlay districts, or mixed use overlay district. It's referencing R1 and R2 zoning in the exception, and I do believe that that would be transitioned to just RN zoning in the new format. And then the second one, I want to bring everyone's attention to page 48. This is to do with the parking minimum maximum changes. I'm sorry to say I'm still not satisfied with the wording on it, because at this point in the table 82-611, it's saying required number of parking spaces. To me, that reads when the standard in most cities is a minimum requirement. It does not, to me, it seems still unclear whether do we mean maximum required parking or is that a minimum? What's the purpose of that chart if we have done away with minimums, right? Because if you look at accessory dwelling units, one per dwelling unit, is that the maximum or is what's going on there? And so that's where the wording still seems unclear to me.
And just real quick, so R1, R2 should be RN. And then what was the page in the,
That's page 18.
page 18?
And referring to the mixed use overlay district.
Yeah, and then what was the parking one? What page was that?
Parking is on page
47.
47, 48.
Thank you.
The Commissioner, the answer to your question is, we started out with the first couple of editions of the zoning code, basically having minimum and maximum, which means, like, for example, right at the very top, accessory dwelling units, the minimum would be 1, the maximum would be 1. That's all you're allowed. In discussions with Tiger and Dan, they thought that may be somewhat confusing, so I suggested that we get rid of the min-max, which is something that's showing up in a lot of zoning codes around the state, but we just, instead of saying min-max, we just use the term required. So if anybody's looking at the chart and they want to put in a duplex, they're required to provide 1 parking space with a maximum of 4. That's all they're allowed, 1 to 4.
So my concern with this, and thank you for the explanation, my concern with this is that, you know, if in the beginning of this, in section 1 of 82-611, we're saying we're getting rid of minimum parking requirements, to quote, there are no minimum parking requirements, is a straightforward sentence, right? And in the next page, we then overlay the minimum parking requirements. So if the goal here is to outline what we expect as a minimum, my recommendation would be to remove the table altogether. But if we feel like we need to have a maximum parking requirement, which is the way I thought the previous version of this document read, then we should better specify what that maximum would be. Since right now it seems like two competing goals within the same section.
Well, let's point out where you're seeing the word minimum at.
So in 82-611, section 1,
Yeah, it says there are no minimum parking requirements.
yep,
That's correct. There are no minimum. There is a required parking requirement. And that's,
which would therefore,
that's the table.
yeah, but the table would therefore be constituting a minimum requirement.
It constitutes both. Required means there's a minimum and a maximum. There's no variation unless it's specified as a range. So for example, again, accessory dwelling units, there's one parking space per unit. That's all that's what you're required to provide. Not 2, not 3, not 0, 1.
Okay.
That's required.
Thank you for the clarification. As we discussed in the last meeting, my concern here is it is a good direction to be moving away from parking minimums. I think we should be striking minimums altogether, any reference of a minimum requirement. If we wanted to restructure this as a maximum, that would be my recommendation there.
I guess my concern is, and I could see the issue going either way, but I do think the language remains confusing. I can certainly see if I was a potential developer, I read the sentence, there are no minimum parking requirements, right? And I stop reading the rest of the parking ordinance because I think, okay, there are no minimum parking requirements. I don't have to build any parking at all. And then all of a sudden, but by the, if you're saying there's required parking, then I do. And so I think that what I would say is, if we want to keep the required parking, then the sentence should be rewritten to say there are no minimum parking requirements other than those required by the table below, something that references that table.
Or the other suggestion would be just get rid of the sentence.
Sure. Or we strike that sentence and
Just
say,
that just get rid of it.
But the point I'm trying to make here is one of the issues with minimum parking requirements is they provide undue burden over different uses when building uses change, right? And so what many cities are doing currently are just removing parking minimums and adding maximums. And the one I'm trying to call out here is the previous version of this document was leaning more towards doing maximums. And it seems like with this edit, we are now going back towards minimums. So I would be more in favor removing the minimums that way, because the point of minimums is to do what? But won't the businesses make sure there's parking in their own need anyway?
Well, I think, I understand where you're going, but let's think about this in terms of a piece of property. If we say that these parking requirements are the maximum, then there really isn't no baseline. You're telling a property owner, I have the ability to provide 1 unit per dwelling unit as the maximum, but what if I don't want to provide any parking? So
Yes, so for example, the city of Ann Arbor is doing that, right? They're removing the minimums for parking requirements for many use cases. And because it typically allows for more adaptive uses of the different buildings.
But it also,
Essentially leaves it in the
this-
property owner's
it's a
ability
local
to-
policy issue, and it's somewhat on the radical side, because I can see issues where property owners may not want to provide any parking at all. And then they may say, well, it's my capital. I don't think I need to provide parking for my customers. But what if the customers that want to come there start parking in other locations, in other people's parking lots, because this person decided they don't want to provide any parking? So I think you have to kind of weigh both aspects. That's why communities are trying to get rid of the minimum, because they don't want people actually building or installing more parking than what's needed, which we tend to, a lot of the national franchises, like along Lansing Road here, many of them don't need the amount of parking that they have. But their corporate policy is to try to provide as much parking as they physically can. So that's why communities went with the min and the max, to try to put them within a range. If you go max only, then people are basically, you're telling people, if you don't want to provide parking, you don't have to. And if you do it the other way, minimum only, then people can provide more parking than what they really are required. So that was the reason we started out with the min-max, because then it basically set the standard for both the minimum and the maximum. When Tiger called me up and said there was still some issue going on, then I said, well, let's just change the word to make it pretty clear that this is the required parking that you have to provide, period. And then there's no variation unless the planning commission will have some latitude, you know, depending on the type of development and site plan, or if it's a special use or shared parking, then the planning commission has the ability basically to allow a property owner to work with an adjacent property owner to do shared parking on their respective properties. But like I said, this is a local policy decision. Ann Arbor may be,
And I get where you're coming from and the concern where people may be parking on other property, right? End of day, the private parking lot owners would be able to regulate who's parking on each other's parking. The city provides free parking via streets and in our central business district parking lots for anyone who's parking in that sense. And so that would be between the property owners if that were to become an issue. Where parking minimums have a very strong track record of inflicting damage is having the ability to be able to change uses or have the uses. Like, for example, why is it 4 spaces for every 1,000 GFA for central cleaning facility? And just things like that, that these parking minimums can be somewhat arbitrary and historically have been found arbitrary across many city zoning ordinances. So that's where my concern is more so being able to actually not have to have this run through planning commission or ZBA in the future for those change or.
so you're, if I'm understanding where you're coming from, you basically want to get rid of table 62-611 and basically have no parking requirements for the city.
Or if we want to restructure it for parking maximums, yes.
That's, I said, that's a local decision.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I think what we've kind of gotten, we've figured out what the proposed ordinance actually says now, right? So there's a debate about, we're not clear exactly what this is saying. I think we now understand what the intent of the ordinance actually is with the existing language. So I think that we as a commission now basically need to make a decision about what we want to recommend, right? So I would say, Commissioner Frost, if you want to make a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance or to basically amend our recommendation to change the zoning ordinance, then we can hear that, we can debate that, we can vote on that. The vote will be what it is, and then we can move on from there. So I guess I would entreat you to propose an amendment to the ordinance.
I'd like to propose to amend section 82-611 to remove the table for parking, required number of parking spaces specified by use, and move it to essentially to fall in line with the opening of the section where this is more along the lines of having no parking minimums.
Support.
So, and now this, commissioners, we have the opportunity to debate that, and so, go ahead.
Okay. As you all know, I've been on the commission a long time. And years ago, we had a parking issue. When Good Flavors came into town, and Doug Lau had his rental business right next to him. In fact, I think Doug was renting the property to them at that time. Well, Doug came in and he was upset because he said there were so many people coming to Good Flavors that there were no parking spaces left for his rentals, for people to come in. And so both of them were here. And the decision we came to was the number of tables. They were allowed so many parking spaces, Good Flavors, per number of tables in their restaurant. So there needs to be some kind of verbiage about how many car spaces are allowed for the businesses, because it has been an issue before when they came in over the parking issues between the rental and Good Flavors.
So in that example, you're referring to it more so as a minimum, not an allowance,
It-
correct?
It was kind of an allowance because,
So therefore, that'd be a parking maximum, you're saying, is that we should
Correct.
have parking maximums?
we should have parking maximums.
I would agree with that, but that's not the way that this current table is structured.
Well, the table initially was minimum, maximum, and I was asked to change it to required. You could remove the word required and put maximum number of parking spaces. And then
In your opinion, do you think the numbers that are in this table would not be overburdensome?
They're not.
As a maximum?
Actually, a lot of these come from the Congress of New Urbanism,
Yep,
which is,
I'm familiar.
okay, so you know that they've really tried to tamp down the number of parking that's required on a lot. So that's where these come from.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from the commission is, on page 47, 6211, parking requirements, we would change the word required to maximum.
I think that's basically what the
That's the
spirit of
core.
your amendment
Yes,
is.
yes.
But I think I think the commission needs to vote on the amendment to.
Sure, but I'm just trying to I want to make sure that we're,
Any comments from my left side here on this issue?
No.
No?
I think there's got to be a maximum and a minimum. I mean, there's places that are going to change use over time, and if you don't have a certain amount of spaces, they're going to only be usable for certain things.
So Commissioner Hartwick, we're coming from the same place and concern of the change over time. The concern that I have though with it is when more often what happens with the minimums is when you're changing and a new use cannot be used because of said minimum, because there's examples of something changing from, say, a gas station to a restaurant or a bakery to a restaurant and such, they are then forced to either tear down buildings around or not use the building. And there's a lot of communities across the US, and this is why you were referencing CNU and why the Congress for New Urbanism recommends removing parking minimums, because what it does is it creates essentially unusable properties based off of what is considered almost arbitrary numbers in zoning minimum tables. That's why, and we come from that same point of concern, is what happens when the building use changes.
I mean, at any point, can't they come to the board and get a waiver to have an exception to that rule?
increase or decrease.
Yeah, either one. I mean,
There's a provision in here, the planning commission may increase the required number if they meet certain conditions. We did put that in as a safety valve. The issue is when ordinances had minimums. I'll give you a great example. Meijer's grocery store, for example, Walmart, they should be providing between 3 and 4 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. They typically provide somewhere around 8 to 9. So you end up with these massive parking lots that rarely get used, that they have to do snow removal on, that contribute to your stormwater, that create heat islands in the summertime for no reason. So that's the reason why communities are at least putting maximums on, so we don't have an overabundance of asphalt. But the planning commission still, I mean, if a property owner can demonstrate that they need something more than what's in the maximum table, they can come to the planning commission and they can appeal that. Then you can decide if you want to grant that or not.
I would be in favor of maximums. Thank you for clarifying that was part of the consideration with the numbers on the table.
Yeah.
Because that was my main concern, was it being overbearing.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? So I guess I'll add my own opinion here at the end, which is just that I think that I think that there is some tension here, because I think that there's a nuance to this that I think in general, if we look at the city of Charlotte, for the most part, we have plenty of parking. Certainly, any of the commercial corridor places, there's ample parking on just about every one of those lots for any type of business that might move in there. So if we're talking about reuse, there's no need to have a minimum parking in those areas. And I think even in our downtown area, there's usually not a shortage of parking. It's usually that you can find parking relatively close to any of the businesses that you would want to go to. And if our goal is to try to create a dense, walkable space, then, not having any kind of requirement for parking can allow businesses to pop up and rely on, okay, there's street parking, there's an adjacent city lot, without having to think about, okay, I might need to buy an adjoining parcel and tear down a home or something like that to try to create parking. And I think that's good. I do think that there is a risk when you remove any minimum at all for bad actors to say, well, I'm not going to provide any parking at all, and that's going to be someone else's issue. But I guess my inclination is to feel like that risk is minimal enough because I just don't think that any business owner or property developer would want to develop something so inconvenient to use that there just was no way to park. That my inclination would be to support the amendment and to change it from required to maximum. But certainly, I can understand there being countervailing views, and I encourage commissioners to vote their own opinion on this.
Point of parliamentary procedure question. Do I need to amend my amendment recommendation to change to changing to the maximum wording? Right, how does that work?
Considering that your amendment was offered verbally in kind of a general way, I think we understand what your amendment is going to do, and when we vote on it, the staff will make, the changes required. I don't know that we need to have.
Can you clarify what that is again?
Yeah, I can restate it.
Yeah, so go ahead and restate what you want your amendment to say so we know what we're voting.
So based on the discussion that we've had, my amendment would be to rename the table to maximum required parking, or required maximum number of spaces, right, in tables 82-611. This would still allow for the clauses in the structure of this section to be able to go and request additional maximums, but essentially would be codifying the fact that we do not want minimum parking requirements.
And so just to offer a further clarification, if you vote, if adopted, the commission would recommend that our new zoning ordinance not require any parking for any development, but would create a cap to how much parking could be built unless the developer came to the commission and said, I really think that there should be more parking than what your maximum is. But there would be no minimum that they would have to build. Presumably, they would build, at least what they felt was required under the that was up to the maximum, but that they would not have to build that if they felt like they didn't have to build parking in that circumstance, and that would be up to each developer to determine for him or herself. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to ask the clerk to take a roll call vote on this. There was support for the original. Yep.
McCray,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Bliven. Yes. Hartwick,
No.
Snyder,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
And just, we have, we're good with passing that, what was it, 6-1? That's enough even with the absent members. Yeah. Okay, so that is, so our recommendation will now include to council to amend the zoning ordinance to change that. Ultimately, it'll be up to council to take the final action to do that, but that will be part of our recommendation.
Just for clarification, to codify this, under the first paragraph, we'll be changing the title from required to maximum parking. But then I was going to delete the sentence, there are no minimum parking requirements. I think that needs to,
That will stay.
that needs to stay in now.
Yeah.
That's what made me dig in. Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah. Okay, got it.
James, just to clarify, you voted on the entire motion then already?
No, that was just the amendment. Yep,
I did want to speak if we get a chance there.
yeah.
Just a quick housekeeping matter, John. When you came up to the podium, could you read into, for the record, your name and?
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. John Icoangeli, Beckett and Rader.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, and I think that the other recommendation on page 18, I don't think we need to take a vote on that, because that was just a correction there.
I have nothing else.
Yeah. Any other discussion on the zoning ordinance? I know Tiger wants to get his, I'll let him make a statement before we vote on the whole thing, but anyone else on the commission? Comment, concern? All right.
No, I was just still confused then. I thought the amendment was to the motion that was created.
From Frost, he was just clarifying what his amendment was, and then we voted on his original amendment.
I'll just add in, I'll do a little more research and stuff, but, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but Charlotte is not Ann Arbor. We don't have a lot of walkability for that matter. Somebody that lives over on Cherry Street is not gonna walk over to McDonald's for that matter. So, especially for the winter months, I'm sure, there's a lot of people that walk around town, but those bigger cities, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, have a lot more walkability where we use cars around here a lot.
Yeah,
The other side of it,
Walk score in Charlotte.
what's that?
We have a very high walk score. We are a very walkable community.
Correct, for
Yeah.
portions.
And like, business owners are still able to provide as much parking as they want.
Absolutely, 100%, but now we're allowing to have no parking at a residential house when we don't allow street parking from 2 until 5 a.m. So I'm not sure how we're gonna get around that.
To Commissioner McCrae's point, most landlords will not want to build towards that, where they aren't competitive
I
with.
agree 100%, but we can't allow something that we're gonna ticket. See my point? So again, I agree with what you're saying, but we're leaving it still to allow another ordinance now to be violated. So that, I'm gonna do some more research, but we'll provide something back to council.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're back to the original ordinance here for recommending this would include not only the zoning ordinance, but also all associated maps as well as part of this. And so is there a motion to adopt or to recommend the entire ordinance?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Discussion?
I would simply like to again thank John and Tiger and Dan and Selena and all others who were involved with the years-long preparation of this. So, great work, thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and I think let's take a roll call vote on recommending the zoning ordinance here.
McCray,
Yes?
Christensen,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Hartwick.
Yes.
Bliven. Yes. Barrett.
Yes.
Okay, that is adopted. Nice job, everybody. Thank you for your work on that. Now, moving on to, okay, yep, short-term rental. So we have another separate proposed ordinance for this, I think, and again, I can pass this out if you need a copy of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, if we take a look, this is to introduce an ordinance. So, Tiger, are we actually, we don't have an ordinance yet.
Correct, so there-
Basically, we are requesting that one be written.
Yep, it's just one of those things that has never been done, it is something newer, obviously not new to the world, but it's definitely newer to Shalat. If the direction from Planning Commission thinks that the city of Shalat should have a short-term rental ordinance, this would be your time just to give city council a recommendation that they should look into it.
Should we include our recommendation of what that might look like, or should we just ask city council to come up with one and then they'll send it back to us?
Correct. If for some reason they wanted to come back to Planning Commission, or if you requested that once an ordinance, maybe the public hearing is held here again, you could add something that in. But the whole zoning ordinance is a little different.
Right.
Where this is just a standalone
It's a
ordinance.
standalone ordinance, so it's not necessarily planning commission purview
Correct.
unless they decide it should be. Okay. Discussion?
I'm a little confused on what's in front of us here. So this is just essentially a official form to ask the city council to write an ordinance, correct?
Yeah, there's no form necessarily, you just need to make a verbal motion, second, support, in a vote, if that's what the planning commission chooses to do. If you don't choose to make a recommendation, you guys can just move on.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so is there a motion to adopt this request for ordinance?
So move.
Discussion? I think to me, the biggest question here is whether we think that we should request, as part of the request, that there be a public hearing on it once it's written by the city, which then would send it back to planning commission. I would be open to that idea. I know it would probably slow down the process here a little bit, because it does add an extra step. And city council doesn't have to do that. This is ultimately their area of policy, but we can certainly ask them to send it back to us, and they can accept that or they can reject it. But I think the commission should, if they want that to happen, they should so indicate it.
When a new ordinance is created or proposed by city council, isn't there public hearing at city council?
Correct, so.
So that
There's
their
a-
choice would essentially be to either
There-
have it with us or with them.
Correct, so it's just like in a sense, like the zoning. It's just not starting with the planning commission, but the first reading after the ordinance is essentially put out to the public, they schedule a public hearing. If for some reason the planning commission wanted to be part of that, that could be a recommendation. But again, you would still have your chance to say anything as citizens, no different than the food truck.
Okay, not hearing any further discussion, I'm going to say that let's just take a voice vote on the resolution as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the resolution is adopted. Okay, our next thing here is that we have to pick some people here. I don't know if we're just going to, everybody's going to put their name in a hat here, and we're going to draw some names, or... So we have to appoint some people to the Administration Appeals Board, to the Administrative Review, and also to but the ZBA is then the mayor. So, no, we're doing that too?
Yep.
Okay, so,
So ZBA and Appeals Board, Administrative Appeals Board, we ask that be the same person. It's got to be appointed, or recommended for that matter, from you guys, then appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the council, separately. But we request that it's the same person, so that the boards will actually operate the same people, just independently as boards. That just makes it very easy for, they're not going to be used a lot, there's no doubt about that, but we have to have them in place.
Can you basically give a brief description as to what that position entails?
So it would just be a member of the board, so the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, so you'd have all powers under the Zoning Enabling Act to hear appeals from, if it's property owners or developers, regarding the zoning ordinance itself.
So there's no, like, we meet the first Tuesday of every month, it's as needed basis.
Correct.
Okay.
The idea behind to put the administrative appeals board as the same people is that we would have more business throughout a year to do with the fire code, the construction code. We should have had a marijuana appeals board in place, and we just never have.
You put in your notes, if I recall right, that they need to be separate boards functionally, right? That's due to state law?
Yeah, that's the zoning enabling act. They can only hear zoning, and nobody else can hear zoning, so they have to be two separate.
The challenge with this is, you know, Tiger, in the last decade, how many things have we had that have been zoning board appeals?
Only 1 in 2 years that I know of.
1 in 2 years, right. So the issue is if we create a zoning board of appeals as a board distinct by itself with members that don't do a lot of other things, this never meets, and it basically atrophies, right? So it's like one day you're like, yeah, I'll be on the zoning board of appeals, and then 6 years later you get a call, hey, remember you're on the zoning board of appeals, we're meeting. And so these people, they don't necessarily, they don't participate on a consistent basis. They don't develop a whole lot of experience and skills into the issue that they're going to be asked to adjudicate on. And so just to kind of basically keep the rust off and keep people engaged with the process, it's useful for these boards that don't necessarily by themselves meet a lot to have them have the same faces so that these people can participate on a regular basis in these public matters.
How often does the Administrative Appeals Board, do you expect for them to meet?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's
Well, based off of the, okay.
The main reason this is all happening too is because with the building code, we have to have a construction board of appeals. We should have it for the fire code, and the more inspections we get out there doing, the more chances for appeals to come to light. We really don't have too many right now. On a safe bet, 2 to 3 times a year.
Okay, and what type of literacy does a member of that board need to have on things like building code, fire code, and such of those?
So we set them up, and again, this all falls back to the zoning ordinance that you just recommended, separates the ZBA currently from the city council. The city council is the ZBA. Elected officials being the ZBA is probably not the best legal standpoint for a city to be in. This new, or proposed zoning ordinance establishes a separate ZBA. It requires 1 planning commission member. What I would think that the planning commission member within these positions or in these 2 boards, you're bringing the overall view of the planning commission to that appeals board. Same with the city council member. And then you're going to have a subject matter expert that's knowledgeable in fire code to maybe marijuana stuff or building code, and then 2 at-large people.
So can we nominate people?
Correct. So, and again, it's, and keep in mind, just remember, you're just picking of a board here, from your board, a recommendation to the mayor.
Right, and then the mayor can accept or reject that recommendation. Correct. Okay, so there's been a nomination of Commissioner Frost for, this is for the administration, for the ZBA and Administration Appeals Board, for both of those.
Yep.
Commissioner Frost, do you accept?
I accept the nomination.
Mr. Chair, just do them separately, too.
Do them separate, right. I have one question. When do we anticipate these boards will meet?
Absolutely.
Does there have to be a second on that nomination?
But probably there should be, yeah. Do you want to add your support?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
To answer that question, we plan to provide some training to that.
Yep.
It's again, we're behind in times here, and we're trying to bring it up to speed in things that we're doing. So you should see the next few council meetings coming up and the amount of stuff that's
So,
going.
Tiger, do you foresee, because of the fact that we're taking our own code and everything back from the county, do you foresee this being more of an issue where there could be more cases coming up?
Yes,
Okay.
because there's going to be some pushback from things that have not got attention in the last 10 to 20 years. And when codes are pushed, there's going to be pushback from it.
Of course. And will you be adding in, as you said, the marijuana and all of that?
So that'll actually be under the appeals board.
Okay.
The administration appeals board.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I was just, okay. All right, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I think we're, since we have a nomination and support and an accepted nomination by the commissioner, and since the ZBA is the first one on the agenda, then we're gonna take a voice vote to recommend Cooper Frost to appointment to the ZBA. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Commissioner Frost is recommended to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now we turn to the Administration Appeals Board, and just so that we have it separately, can you make your nomination again?
I nominate Cooper Frost.
Support, is there support?
Sure.
Okay, and you accept this nomination as well? And then, so all those in favor of Commissioner Frost to the Administration Appeals Board, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and so that carries, and he is appointed to the Administration Appeals Board as well. So this then leaves us with the Administration Review. I had a question on this, because I know this says chair plus member, but I thought we amended it at our workshop that it didn't have to be the chair.
You didn't catch that in the review of the zoning ordinance?
We put that back in?
It was in there.
Okay.
That's where I pulled it from.
Yeah. Well, we recommended that, I guess. I do.
But again, James, it doesn't have to be you. So you're gonna have the chair and one member be the normal members of that
Yep.
team, along with obviously city staff and so on. But then you'll have an alternate too. So you're actually a regular member and an alternate is who you're appointing tonight.
Right. And I'd be happy to sit on it when available, but if it's, at all during business hours, I will not be available. If it's Wednesday or Thursday, I will not be available.
And that's the best thing, I think, is with that administrative board, we can kind of pick and choose a little bit, quite a bit there.
Yep.
Because we're just gonna be, it's gonna be city staff and the developer, whoever's requesting.
Now, if James can't be there, wouldn't it automatically fall down to vice chair?
It would go to the alternate member.
Alternate member.
Are we needing to nominate alternate member?
So that's what we're gonna nominate a permanent member and an alternate member.
Yep.
The alternate member will presumably try to be in attendance if either the chair or the other permanent member cannot be in attendance. I'm gonna nominate Vice Chair Barrup to this. With support and
Happy to accept.
with your acceptance. And is there a nomination for and this is for the permanent, the other permanent standing member. And then is there I guess we'll do that, we'll vote on that, and then we'll take on the alternate. So all those in favor of Vice Chair Barrup for the other permanent member of the Administrative Review Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is done. And then is there a nomination for an alternate member for the Administration Review? I'm going to go ahead and nominate Commissioner Christensen.
Second.
Do you accept?
I accept.
All right. Discussion? All those in favor of Commissioner Christensen for the Administration Review Committee alternate position, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. And that carries. All right, this then brings us to late public comment. And
I still have questions about.
we just did an alternate.
Coming up next.
You're the permanent. I'm the other permanent by definition, and then Commissioner Christensen's the alternate. Did I miss something? No? Okay. Late public comment. If anyone from the public has been wearing an invisibility cloak this meeting,
We didn't talk about food trucks.
that's the commissioner comments. That's number 15.
Oh, okay.
All right, so this is for late public comment. If someone wants to suddenly apparate into the room and harangue the commission, this is your opportunity. 5 minutes. State your name and whether you're a resident of the city of Charlotte. And late public comments is closed. So in reference, so we are at commissioner comments. And so you had a question about food trucks. Tiger, can you just, for the commission's benefit, tell us what the food truck ordinance currently states?
Not verbatim, but,
In general, the spirit of the ordinance.
yeah, so food trucks are allowed, basically any place that they can park legally on private property, not on city property, like city parking lots or Bennett Park, unless it's okayed by city council, and restricted to not be in the 102 and South Cochran.
So example, of that would be like on Lawrence and whatever your.
Yep.
Yep, so that would be, I think, the first, and do they need to be putting in an application, or what's that process?
Yep, so they can either get a single-day permit, they can get a 15-day permit, or an annual permit that expires at the end of the year. So it's just an annual permit. However, if they get it in June, it still expires into December 31st. The only exception to that is any food trucks or mobile food vending units that are part of an event, they can be part of that event. So if it's Frontier Days or the fair, that's part of that event, and they get inspected individually just during that event.
So do they get inspected if they're not part of an event?
Yes, that's part of the permit process.
Unless they're on private property.
Nope. To operate in the city.
Just like a restaurant. Restaurant's on private property, but it's open to the public, and so it's
But we still have a fire code to enforce there.
subject to.
Does there have to be a minimum or maximum parking spaces?
Not if our recommendation gets approved.
Nope, they can't impede traffic or cause a bottleneck or have people standing out in the street. They can't do that. If they are doing that, or for some reason that does happen, no different than anything else, 911 should be called. The police will then take care of that portion of it. And then if for some reason they either do or don't have a permit, then we would follow up on that part.
And they're inspected by you guys.
Yep, the fire department.
Also inspected by the health department, right?
That's part of our inspection. Yep. So they have to have a health permit
Okay.
when they actually come to get inspection from us.
Other commissioner comments on anything you want? Anybody want to talk about Canasta? If there's no further commissioner comments, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Clerk can take her pick. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The Planning Commission of the City of Charlotte stands adjourned.